it'd be helpful to just kind of share what I did when I actually first started Wake Up Water. That was the first beverage I started. And to kind of just give you a really clear cut picture of what this looked like, um, I am somebody who does not enjoy drinking coffee, but I wanted the caffeine in my day because I'm tired all the time. I'm active. I, have a busy schedule. I don't sleep enough, and I wanted something that had the caffeine that a coffee would have, but that actually tasted good. And unfortunately, a lot of the products out there on the market that were not coffee were these unhealthy energy drinks. So they're loaded with sugars and artificial ingredients. And so I wanted to essentially create a better for you product that did not have all those calories and unwanted sugars and artificial ingredients. So the first step is coming up with the concept. So it's like, okay, a better for you energy drink mix. That's what I want to create. The next step was going to a beverage development company. And there's a few different routes that you can go here. You can go to a beverage development company. You can go to what's called a co-packer. And these are individuals who are or companies that are actually going to produce your product at scale. But a lot of them have experience on the development side of things as well, because they already produce similar products and they can likely help you in those early stages actually develop and formulate the product. So product development company or beverage development company, a co-packer, or you could even go to a ingredient supplier who supplies these ingredients, and they kind of typically know how these ingredients are going to interact with one another and how to actually blend them together so that it's, one, safe to consume, two, tastes very good, and three, kind of is shelf stable, or actually can withstand being on a shelf. Even if it's a refrigerated product, they know how to kind of work that into the product. So those are kind of three options: product development company, beverage development company, co-packer or co-manufacturer, an ingredient supplier. So those are the three places you can go. I typically go right to a beverage development company. These are typically experts, food scientists, people who have a large amount of experience producing products and actually creating products. So they're the best. I highly recommend using one of those three. I don't advise trying to do it on your own. It's very difficult. And typically, even if you're able to come up with a formula, say in your kitchen, when you take that formula and give it to a manufacturer to produce at scale, it typically doesn't work out, because there's all of these variables that go into producing a product at scale that your formula and your kind of process and methodology does not account for. So definitely go to the experts. Even if it costs money, it's money well spent. That is absolutely important. Having a great sound product is the most important, and it is the most foundational aspect of a product-based business is your actual product. So go to the experts, have them help you with it. The next step is going to be kind of getting samples from those product development companies. And this is a really fun part, because you're actually tasting your concept. You're actually seeing and touching and feeling and tasting a physical product that you've thought up in your head. So this is a really exciting part. So you're going to get samples, and they're going to share with you typically a handful of samples that you get to try out. I typically like having focus groups, so bringing in friends and family to try the product and give feedback on it, because what you want is constructive criticism, constructive feedback that you can then go back to your product development company and say, here are the changes we want to make. Typically, the first round of samples are not going to be perfect. They're typically not ready for the market. So you're going to get all these samples, give feedback on them. You might say, oh, this beverage is too sweet, or it's not sweet enough, too much flavor, not flavored enough, too much carbonation, whatever it is. So take that feedback, go back to the product development company. They're then going to send you more samples. And you basically continue to go back with this back and forth process until you're satisfied with the end result. And once you're done with that, during this time, you probably should be thinking about branding, your logo, package design. What is your product actually going to sit in? Is it going to be a can, a bottle? Is it going to be a stick pack, a tub of powder? What is this beverage product or product in general going to be? And so that should be happening simultaneously during the development process, because what's going to happen is when you're done with the formula, you're going to want to go to a manufacturer and get ready to produce this product at scale. But if you don't have the packaging down, if you don't have your branding, your logo, that's just going to be wasted time. So go to a beverage development company, go to a product development company, have them be making the product, helping to formulate, and as you're iterating, as you're going through these round of samples, do that branding, do the marketing side of things. When those two things are done, you're almost ready to make your product. You're going to take your product, you're going to take your packaging, your branding, you're going to go to what's called a co-packer or co-manufacturer. And these are companies who are going to produce your product at scale. So you're going to supply them with a formula, which, don't worry, that is exactly what the beverage development company is going to do. They're going to have a formula, step-by-step process of how to actually formulate and actually create the product. You're going to give that to the manufacturer. You're going to give them any of the packaging that you want your product packaged into, and they're going to produce your product at scale. Here's another thing to keep in mind. When you go to that manufacturer, you're going to probably want to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And for those of you that don't know what an NDA is, it is essentially a contract that two parties sign that swear to kind of keep this information, secret. They're not going to share this information. They're going to kind of keep it to themselves and not go around spreading it. So it protects you. Say you have a proprietary formula, or you have some trade secret or some way of you producing the product that you don't want people knowing about. Sign the NDA, and they're legally obligated to keep that information to themselves. So there's a lot of information there. Backtrack a little bit. Come up with a concept. Give that concept to a product development company or a beverage development company. Then you're going to want to do the branding and package design while that formulation process is going on. And then lastly, you're going to take all of that and go to a manufacturer or a co-packer who's going to help assist with you or assist you to produce this product at scale. So once that has happened, you guys are probably going to have calls. You're going to sit down. You're going to source all the ingredients. You're going to source all the packaging, and you're going to find time to produce the product. Then that's it. You've made your product. You've developed your product. A lot of these manufacturers are going to have high minimum order quantities. So it's really important to find a co-packer that can work with you on a smaller scale. So these are very hard to find, but typically I tell people just Google, email people, call people, reach out to other people in the space. Find anyone who can assist you in finding a smaller co-packer or somebody who can produce product in smaller quantities, because you want to keep your costs as low as possible before launching, right? You want to get the product out there, test the market, establish product market fit, but you don't want to go spending all this money on inventory when you haven't sold anything yet. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, once you have developed the product, once you have manufactured the product, now is time for the marketing and sales side of things. So what I typically recommend is, while you're getting things set up with your co-packer, while you're getting production ready, go out and, if you're going to sell online, do some online advertising, develop a wait list, develop some sort of demand for the product so that when you come out with it, you hopefully already have some sales. You can do pre-sales, which are great because that helps improve your cash flow. You're going to get product and sales in the door before you actually produce the product, ship the product out. So that's a great way to kind of help with your cash flow early on, is doing those pre-sales. An email list is a great way to kind of keep customers involved and kind of have an early access to potential customers. If you're going to sell your product in retail, you're probably going to need a distributor. So what I would recommend doing is taking samples of your product and setting up meetings with distributors in the areas that you're going to want to launch in. Say you want to launch in New York City. Find a food or beverage distributor in New York City that is already making deliveries to all the stores you want to get into. You want to take samples to them. You want to allow them to test out the product. You want to kind of talk to them about your game plan and how you're going to build this brand from zero to a special brand, and why they should take you on, because these distributors are getting harassed all the time by tons and tons of brands, and it's really important to make sure that you give them reason to kind of carry you and work with you. So that's important to do before you produce the product, because you don't want to produce product and have it sit there and then be rushing around trying to sell it. Have those meetings with the distributors before you've produced a large amount of product. Typically, you can get samples from your beverage development company, and you're going to want to take these samples and go around and kind of give them to these distributors and have those meetings with them. And then after that's done, if you can convince a distributor to take you on, start running around like a crazy person, identifying stores that will take your product on. And, you can even pre-sell them to them. You can offer them incentives to take your product on. But basically, you want to come up with a plan and a system so that when you produce product, you know exactly who you can ship it out to, and you can kind of start the process rolling, hitting the ground running, and not kind of dragging your feet a little bit. So that's really all it takes to get a product, a beverage or food product out there in the market. Come up with a concept, work with a development company to make it, do all the branding and package design, produce the product at scale, hire a distributor or sell online, and then get selling and marketing. So there's a lot of nuances, a lot of intricacies of each one of those parts, but that is kind of a high level, overview of what it takes to actually get a product out there in the market. So hopefully that helps. And in the future, I can dive into, all sorts of tips, marketing, sales, operations, supply chain, what have you, for things to actually go into it. But that is a high level overview of how you get a product, a food or beverage product, out there in the market.